Well, we're all in there and we're all talking, and right now you're out facing the world.
Right.
You and Blossom and
we got
Amanda.
We got our resident philosophers here. That's Blossom and that's Delilah.
Delilah.
Yeah.
Okay. And Samson, he's somewhere else.
Right.
He's out climbing on top of Rogers. Right.
We're coming to you from Dog Heaven. That's La Pollock, Tennessee, U.S. of A., home of the Adrian Baird dog kennel. The only $700,000 structure that could have been built for $100,000 that I know of.
Yeah, but now it's got heated floors.
What?
It's got heated floors.
I bet they're tore up by now.
Well,
I bet they are. Yeah, I'd say they are.
Heated floors, so many homes nowadays are built with heated floors,
You got a $50,000 roof on it because shingles all they could afford. I could have sold them standing seam for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I always said that these heated dog kennels on the floor, that just makes them smell a little bit more rank.
Well, that's like a hot-footed dog, I always say.
Right. Well, we want.
Is that your cup?
That's my cup of water.
Oh, I was going to offer you some coffee.
No, I'm fine. I just had coffee and I just got me a cup of ice water.
You're being paged.
Folks, we're here with you today. I guess hearing most people, I don't know whether most people realize it, but Ronnie brought out something earlier today, which I already knew, but he brought it out, that we are located closer to St. Louis, Missouri, and Ferguson, Missouri, which is a suburb of St. Louis, than we are to Memphis, Tennessee.
Good possibility. You talking about our physical location? Where we're at right here.
Where we're at right now, we're closer to Ferguson, Missouri, where the riot is going on, than we are to our own state city of Memphis. And I think Ronnie's going to verify that, which doesn't need any verification from me because I've been to both places.
What do you think will come of it?
Well, I'm a little bit older than either you or Ronnie, and I don't know what I had the good fortune or whether I was a part of something that didn't amount to a hill of beans. And that is the sit-in demonstrations that took place in Greensboro, North Carolina, I believe in 1963 or 1964. And that was at the Woolworth lunch counter where a group of basically 4 black guys.
It's about the same. It's a little bit further to St. Louis. That'd be swinging arc down the bit right there. It's maybe 30 miles closer to Memphis. Air miles, not road miles. I don't know how that'd work out.
The 4 guys that sat in at the Woolworth lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina, I went over and sat with them a lot because I sympathized with them not being able to be served at the lunch counter, and you had black people working behind the counter dishing up the food. And I would go over, my wife worked about 2 doors up across the street on the corner, catty corner from the Woolworth building, and I'd go over and sit with those guys while I was waiting to pick her up. We couldn't afford but one automobile, so I had to pick her up from work. And they come out and ask me what I wanted to eat. I said, I want whatever they're ordering, And so they just went on because they wasn't letting those guys order. And so I didn't order anyhow. Probably didn't have any money, to order, but I did go in and sit with those 4 guys, basically 4 guys, sometimes it was more, in Greensboro, North Carolina. Now, when I look back at that, where I said, was I fortunate to be a part of that, or was it an unfortunate incident? last night I got to thinking about this situation that we have not just in Ferguson but throughout Chicago and other places which are predominantly black. And I said to myself, you know, America was the last and is the last chance for the black race to bring itself up far above what it has been in its own native continent of Africa. And you know, in the 60s, during the civil rights marches and the Martin Luther King era, and everything looked so promising. And now look what you got. You got a bunch of heathens. I just hate that's what they are. They're heathens. And they kill themselves at a rate. 90% of the black people that are killed in this country are killed by black people. And it's even worse really than you realize, because when a crime is perpetrated, let's say on a Mexican couple, they are listed as Mexican, that they're being victimized as a minority. But when a Mexican commits a crime on white people or on black people, he is listed in the official register as white.
Well, you said that America was the last good chance they had to rise above what they'd accomplished in Africa. You know, Zimbabwe, when it was under white rule, it was
Rhodesia.
yeah, when it was under white rule, it was, I'm not saying it was fair, but it was a prosperous country. Mugabe has destroyed it, destroyed the economy, and I don't see any future for them until they change politics, and don't see that happening. South Africa is on a slow road, a slow track down the same road. And that's the last of it. There ain't nothing else left in Africa. I mean, it's a start over project on everything else.
Well, yeah, I understand where you're coming from there. And like say in this country, in the United States, which was known as the great melting pot of the world, when you infused the black society into the mainstream America, they refused to melt.
Well, because they were paid not to.
They were what?
Paid not to.
Well, now starting with a Great Society in 1964, they were being paid to remain in their ignorant, uneducated lifestyle.
The mixing and the blending was not socially acceptable. It's nearly none whatsoever, almost. It is somewhat now, but before that it was not socially acceptable. You could get murdered if you were a black man with a white woman in the South.
Right.
So as far as blending or melding with the society around them, it was going a lot slower, but it was going. But they were paid to become a ethnic group. Pays well.
Right.
In fact, if they'd start signing up hillbillies, I might secede from the Union and become a hillbilly.
As a minority?
Yeah. I think we're in the minority. They keep educating us out of our ignorance, and there ain't much left for us now. You know the difference in ignorance and stupidity?
There's a cure for ignorance, isn't there?
Well, ignorance is like, a perfect example is politicians. Politicians are a detriment because generally they're ignorant. They don't realize that whatever they might do to give them immediate wealth or satisfaction or something takes away from the grand scheme. They don't understand that they're sworn an oath to certain basic principles that holds things together and makes the future for their kids and their grandkids. So just for their own immediate satisfaction or personal wealth, they bend the rules until the rules don't apply anymore. They go around the rules till they don't apply anymore. Now that's ignorance, because they don't really see what they're doing to themselves and their family. Stupidity is the people that votes for them and pays them. That's the difference in ignorance and stupid.
I agree.
I can't argue the point with that because if you say what you think to a certain extent as far as elections are concerned, it's thought that you're disagreeing with the Constitution or our American way, and you name it. But we are stupid. Now, I'll admit that I'm the first one, because I believed in the American dream, and I've put in over 45 years chasing it.
Well, did you ever become convinced, irrationally convinced, that if you could just get the word out to people what was happening to them, they'd actually stand behind you and help you change things?
I don't think they would. I think there's...
Did you ever think that back before you got shot down?
No, not before I got shot down, I didn't. I don't know what the solution to our situation is, where it stands now. We're totally controlled by some type of government agency or whatever, and we take it just, I don't know how it's kind of like we accept it. We won't say nothing because the majority of the people are either tied to some sort of government agency, payroll, receiving something from the government. And whenever we go to an election, it's done by a majority. And when you got the majority that is dependent on government of any type or whatever, there's very few of them that will vote other than for the establishment.
Well, I heard on the other morning that in 2012, that 55% of the eligible black voters in Ferguson, Missouri turned out for the presidential election. In 2014, they had municipal. In 2013, they had on odd years, they had municipal election. And only 6% of the black population turned out for the local elections. And this guy says, just think how much of a change they could have made if the same amount had turned out in 2013. Well, this was Halloran Hilton Hill. I tried to call him and tell him that probably it would have been better in 2012 if only 6% had turned out to vote, and that 57% had turned out on the 13th. I said that might have made a bigger difference on what we're experiencing nowadays, and I believe that.
Well, I do too. It's not that there's not enough people voting. It's enough people vote that don't know what they're doing.
Well, I was thinking also that an uneducated electorate, an uneducated bunch of voters.
Uninformed.
Well, now people get credentials and they're still not educated.
But uninformed, maybe uneducated and uninformed, that's worse than, that's nothing but mob rule when you have that bunch turned out.
Yeah, and you can indoctrinate through education or college education. You can become indoctrinated through the system, or you can stay home and be indoctrinated through the check that comes in the mailbox.
Right.
Indoctrination either way gets what they want, return to the office and leave us, we'll figure it out, it'll all work out, always has, and it gets a little worse all the time and it don't back up.
Right.
Well, fellas, I've been making kind of a joke about it, seeing as how some of the elections are going, and I've about come to the conclusion, and I'm not being totally serious, but we have these EB cards, I believe is what they call them, to where that you purchase your food or whatever with a card. And I've come to the conclusion that every person, and I'm not talking about citizens, but everybody who sets foot on United States soil should be issued in one of these cards, one of these EB cards. And the the purpose of this is to, from my understanding, the indoctrination I have from the news media and politicians is this is to eliminate hunger, to do away with hunger.
I think we ought to guarantee them $100 minimum wage too.
Well, we'll get to minimum wage. Minimum wage is another thing. But anyhow, if this EB card is to eliminate hunger, the guys that you're under the bridge or anywhere else, or the people coming across the border, no matter what, if you give any person X many hours, I think he will experience hunger. I know I get hungry occasionally.
I only get hungry at mealtime.
Well, all right, but see, the word
It's
is
always
hunger.
mealtime where I'm at.
Well, the purpose of this thing is to eliminate hunger. So every human being, I believe, experiences hunger. So why not issue a card to everybody? And let's say like if y'all
You
want
think how many jobs it would create over in Africa installing all them ATM machines?
I think, yeah, especially Nigeria.
Yeah.
Well,
I think what we ought to do is just give everybody a check for $1 million, and
We
let
could
them
do
do
that.
let them do the best they could
we
with
could
it.
do that. But what I'm saying on this card, if every person in the United States was given one of these cards, you take what is the difference in me going down here to a restaurant and paying for my meal, or me sending this money? Instead of paying this meal, I send this money to Washington, and they send the money.
Well,
What's wrong with
good.
that? That's basically-
that's basically what happens. The only thing is that if you got $100 to spend on the meals, and you send that $100 to Washington, you ain't gonna get $100 back.
Well, let the restaurant and them hack that out. I know. Well, the restaurant may get $200 back, but what I'm saying is, this.
No, you only get $200 if you hadn't paid any in.
Well, but what are you doing? We're paying for every one of these EB cards out there. Plus, when we go to eat, we're paying for the meal.
You mean there's a cost to those things?
I thought everything's free.
I
Well-
thought it was free.
That's the point I'm trying to make. If each of us, just like you and I, we go out here, we work all day. What's the difference in us going down here to a restaurant and paying for it, or going up here to the grocery store and paying for food, and sending, instead of paying for it, send it to the government and let the government pay them? What's the difference? The only thing is the money's just taking a different route.
No, there is, in that detour, there's a toll bridge and a toll fee that
Okay.
is taken out of that money that you're sending up there.
Okay.
I would rather keep mine in my pocket and go down here and pay for my food than to send it to Washington, have them to take a sizable chunk out of it, and then send me a lesser amount back.
Okay. Now, the money that we send to cover these EB cards, is it going through that same toll gate?
Well, does it come through?
Yeah. In other words,
What do you mean?
what I'm saying is, whenever we're paying for these EB cards, we don't go down
I
here.
believe those cards come out of the general fund.
Okay. But where does the money from the general fund come from?
It comes from money sent up there.
Okay, I'm saying the same thing. I'm saying we send it up there for them cards.
Yeah, but if I don't send it up there, I'm going to have more money. People are going to have more money if they don't send it up there.
Okay. The people that are getting that money, are they getting the same amount that we're sending up there? Or is
No,
it
no,
No.
okay.
no.
Then it's the same thing. It's the same difference, and sooner or
What do
later,
you mean, what is the same thing?
what you're saying is that why would it cost more if we send that money up here to the government sends it back and pays our bills? It's doing the same thing exactly as what we're doing with these cards.
I don't charge myself for doing that.
Well, but they charge you for doing it for the rest of the people.
Huh?
Well, why would it cost more? Because all it do is
Because
push a
they've got
button.
all of these bureaucrats and brothers-in-laws and relatives and everything and all this money. It's like the city of La Folla is paying out money to people we don't even know what they're paying it out
That's
for.
absolutely
If the only thing that we had to worry about was food, it'd work. But the
Yeah.
shop owner needs something besides food. The delivery man that brings his cokes and stuff to him needs more than food. And that's the difference.
Well, that is in the cost of it, though. Whenever whenever we send this money down here for this EB card, that cost
Now,
of that
we know-
delivery guy.
I paid taxes now for 60 years, and I have never sent any taxes in for one of those cards. I pay my taxes. That's their decision how much they allocate for these cards. It's not me.
Uh-huh. Well, the point I'm trying to make is if this is to eliminate hunger, we all experience hunger. Maybe we ought to change the meaning of the word.
No, I said a long time ago that fat people are always hungry.
Well, I saw a thing the other night. I see things on TV, and a lot of times I'll turn the sound off to where I can see what I'm actually seeing rather than hearing it. Anyhow, we'll go into this discussion later. I'll get off onto another one. But I think it would. Here's what the thing that you're not seeing, Bob, is we would run out of general fund pretty darn quick. Okay, we'd run out of money.
I know that.
This
we're already out.
Okay.
We're already out.
This is more of a socialized system. It just gets us a little deeper into socialism.
It
Now,
gets
see,
us a little bit deeper in debt.
well, I've been reading and trying to study a book on left-wing liberals, and I'm trying to become one.
Well,
See,
Just like
I think I'm a right wing.
That's right.
you're right. One.
Dr. Michael Savage says that liberalism is a mental disease.
Well, yeah, and you have to study it to probably get there.
Right,
To really be a good one, you got to read and study how to be one.
right.
But
Wait a minute.
okay,
We've got to tell them about Digger.
okay.
Oh, I can tell them about Digger.
Won't
I
you
came
do
by
that?
there this morning a little after 8 o'clock, and he was already at work. He was in there just mixing up those flavors of propane, and he's going to come up with a new flavor here shortly, which will be announced here on the Wild Bob and Ronnie show.
Would it be wild rose or honeysuckle or something?
I don't know. He may have had a little bit of what's his name? Captain Morgan mixed in with it.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah. All right.
That would really flavor it good.
I'm more into Gentleman Jim.
What? Gentlemen, G.
Yeah.
Tame turkey.
That's 5625444.
Well, see, you're not old enough.
All your rum blended
You're
propane.
not old enough to remember Gentleman Jim, the boxer. And neither am I, but he was part of our folklore.
You're talking about
General
Diamond
Jim
Jim.
Corbett, I believe
Jim,
was his
yeah.
name. And he was such a gentleman that he was real nice after he knocked your head off your shoulders.
What was that Sullivan guy's name?
John L. Yeah, John L.
Yeah.
Sullivan.
Yeah.
John L. Sullivan. They'd go 100 rounds. The round lasted if somebody got knocked down, and
Yeah.
the match is over when he couldn't get up.
When he couldn't get up, yeah.
And they done it bare knuckle.
Bare knuckle, yeah. Yeah.
And that was bare knuckles too.
Yeah. Well, I bet that'd make your nose hurt, wouldn't it?
I reckon.
Gosh. You know, whenever you get hit like that, it's got a pop to it. If you get hit hard enough, it'll pop.
Oh,
I
I've
try
been,
not to
oh,
get hit.
Lord.
that.
hey, I've been hit pretty hard, and I can take a heck of a lick. I told that fellow that hit me that I said, I take a heck of a lick. I said, now watch how good one I can give. I cold cocked him. Hit me in top of the damn head.
What did he hit you with?
A stick.
Oh,
Is that what made that mark on your skull?
Probably. I think whether it was that. I've been hit so many times. I don't know.
Well, I'm not surprised.
the other day, I kind of like to watch the news thing, and this guy, what's his name, Huckabee from out in Arizona,
Mike.
No,
Arkansas?
he's in Arkansas.
Arkansas.
He's one to endorse Lamar as a true conservative.
Yeah,
Right, and
Well-
also
Flashman.
Flash.
If you get a chance to see this, the other night, I believe it was Sunday night, he had a documentary thing on, what is it, Housing for Humanity, where they build these houses.
Right.
Habitat for Humanity is what it was. And he was up in Detroit. And this guy that was over Habitat for Humanity, they was taunting all the goods and whatever of everything and telling how great everything was. And this guy that's over Habitat, he's going to telling how Detroit's going to come back. You know, they're going to build all these Habitat houses and all this good stuff. Well, and then they got on telling how Detroit saved the world by building the vehicles and whatever. I'm sure they did. I'm not sure they saved the world. They participated in helping. I think the soldiers helped too. But anyhow, the thing that got me, they was out there on the work site. And this was comical. They had, in the background, they had this 2 sawhorses set up, and they had 2, looked like 2x4s. And they was building a, like you'd put in a header out of plywood,
Okay, oh, yeah.
about a 16-inch header.
Right.
And it looked to be 10 or 12 foot long, something like that.
16-inch header would be a pretty good sized header.
Well, it may have been a 12-inch header.
Right.
But anyhow, they had about 6 people. They were healthy people lined up behind this. They all had their hard hats on, you know, and all their safety gear and their safety glasses and everything else, and they all had a hammer. And they was all nailing this plyboard down to this 2x4 or whatever.
Nailed it to the horses.
No. The tricky thing I seen this lady on this end, she got a nail. And she put that nail in there and she beat on it and beat on it and beat on it. Must have hit it at least 15, 20 times.
Tried to push it in.
Yeah, trying to nail that nail in. But I got to watching all these other guys. They was all just a hammering and a beating and a hammering and a beating. And I kept looking. I said, where's the nails? There wasn't none of them starting or putting any nails. They was just standing there beating on it.
Well, now that was stupid anyway. They could have took one guy with a nail gun and done all that.
Oh, but the thing of it was, the thing was cut and dried for TV.
Yeah.
It was a scene
Did you
set
ever
up.
see that?
But, you know, you don't beat on a board and just keep a beating. This one guy on the end, I bet he hit it 100 times.
Did you
And he never started another
Did you
nail.
ever see that there weather thing where they had this flood and there's some woman out there in a boat doing this here thing, and these 2 guys went through a walk.
Yeah, water's about that deep.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I tell you what, I saw Jimmy Carter on one of the night shows one time. He was talking about Habitat for Humanity, and he had some video of Al Gore, and this was when they were in the office. Al Gore and
You talking about the president.
Hillary,
Hillary.
Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton.
They was helping, and they was there trying to push them nails in with a hammer. And Jimmy said, Jimmy, he did have enough sense. He knows how to drive a nail.
Yeah.
He said, you got to swing. He showed David Letterman who it was. Said, you got to swing that hammer. You don't push it in. But they had them guys there. They was just trying to push that nail in. You know,
Well,
instead of swinging it, they was going like this with a hammer.
Right.
Well, this got
And we let them people.
Well, you know, Clinton was so used to pushing things in anyhow, that's the only way he knew to use that hammer.
Yeah, but you had to wet it first.
Right, yeah.
But this was comical to watch these guys. In other words, nobody was watching the guys, these people driving these nails, but they wasn't driving nails. There wasn't no nails.
They were just,
They was just a beating on the board.
Right.
And all this sounds in the background, bam, 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 bam. And they did this for about 5 minutes. 2 guys in 2 minutes. One guy, well, two could have put it together in 2 minutes. And I thought to myself,
I built many a header.
well, I thought to myself, Detroit, I said, this has got to be a union job. I said, this has got to be union. You got 6 of them lined up here. They all got all their safety
I
equipment.
just wonder if they're going to put a stipulation in these Habitat for Humanity that they are exempt from paying their water bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, give us water. We deserve. That's a human right.
It's a human right to water.
What is it, $90 million owed?
Screws are a minimum right. The minimum, they're a human right too.
What?
Screws. Cause I got this woman got mad at me because I charged her for screws, put a roof on with.
That's part of the cost.
Well, I mean,
Do they
well,
give
they,
you-
they,
aren't
they,
you
what it
supposed to-
was,
aren't
she
you
had
supposed
she
to
sent
donate?
after another bag of screws, and then I was supposed to give them to her because she bought the roof, and I did. I just figured, you know, if you really want them that bad, if you'll take them, I'm gonna give them to you. And I gave her money back for the guy her work.
Right.
And to beat all, she beat me out $1 or something. I didn't even realize it was a check thing. But she actually thought that screws was free to me. And by the way, she works for the post office.
Oh.
And I said, you know what you ought to be doing is giving them stamps away. Well, I can't give stamps away. Well, why? Well, I have to pay for them. I said, where do you think I get them damn nails?
They gave them to you, didn't they? Yeah. I understand. that's the system. But if anybody gets to see this thing, if they rerun it, I'll guarantee you, if anybody watching us that's producing this thing, if they rerun this thing, watch the guys driving the nails. It kind of puts me in mind. You used to run them monkeys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that monkey thing.
Yeah.
That puts me in the mind of
You're
that.
talking about the county commission.
Yeah, county commission.
Have you ever been over to the Habitat for Humanity's in Knoxville where they have all their stuff stored?
No, they got a storage over there?
You think Richard's place looks something here? You ought to see what all they got over
They
there.
got Bob Andrews.
Hey,
man.
I mean, they got
Okay.
stacks and stacks and stacks of stuff and warehouses full of stuff that they sell, and this is all stuff that was donated to them,
And then they sell it.
Yeah,
Okay.
they sell it, and then they use, some of it to build houses, and,
Well, they get a lot of stuff they can't use, but they sell
all
it.
of these
Okay.
socialistic and what you call non-profit efforts are being made where they're doing something for the poor people. All of that's being made possible by these people who are out here working and building stuff.
Let me go back and expand on what you just said about water being a right.
I didn't
Okay.
say it. I didn't say
No,
it was a right.
Ronnie did. He's making some kind of facetious remark about
That's
it.
what they say.
That's what the people in Detroit are saying. It is a right. But let me go back to this, Bob. Now, you take issue kind of with what I was saying about this card. Okay, what about water? What about the water we use? Why not send the bill to Washington and let Washington pay the utility?
Look, we can't hardly pay for it sending it up here to Tennessee Avenue. What about if you send it to Washington? It's probably going to be even worse.
It'd be $1 a swallow.
You can buy water cheaper at the grocery store that's been bottled than you can get it from the tap.
Yeah.
I can't argue that point with you, but anyhow, this is a socialistic way of looking at things. I've always looked at the things in a capitalistic manner to where you go out and you work and you get paid for what you do. Now,
That just shows what a fool you are.
that shows what a fool I am. We're in a society that a large percentage of our society is not paid by what they do. They're not paid by what they do. They're paid according to their need, as to whatever they need.
I don't know, the less you do, the more you get paid.
Well, let's say that you and I, Bob, go out here and work, and I've got 10 kids and you got 1, okay?
I got what? 10 what?
I've got 10 children and you've got 1. Let's say we go out here to work. Then I should be paid 10 times as much as you do to do the same job because I've got
Why?
more need.
That was you created that need.
Well, I agree. But if we look at it in a socialistic
That way
manner,
and claim me 2 or 3 more than if it
Well-
worked that way.
if we were to look at it in a socialistic manner, that's how we're getting paid by what
Well,
we need.
Well, I've heard this old argument before. Everybody paid according to their need.
Right?
Well, that does not work. That myth was exploded back in the 1600s by Captain John Smith in the Jamestown
You're absolutely
colony.
correct. And we didn't learn from that lesson.
Well, yeah, we did, but see, things become diluted. Information becomes diluted. Experiences become diluted, and I've mentioned a number of times on this program, not this one here, but the television program, that one of the reasons the government does not care if the old people die is because the old people are the only ones that remember how it was.
Mm-hmm.
And see, we've got a complete generation of people here that all they do is play games on their smartphone or set and text. All they do is push them buttons and text. They contribute nothing to the welfare of this country. I don't know how many people that I know here in Lafayette, Tennessee, that draw a check for disability. The fact that they disable themselves has got nothing to do with it. They still draw that check for being disabled. Now they get that check for disability and they spend it on dope. Then they go, they take their food card or whatever they get, and they sell it. $100 groceries for $50. Okay, they take that and do dope. Then they go to Open Arms Ministry and all these other places around here, the churches, and get food to eat off of because they have wasted all of their funds that they received by a very generous government that's generous with everybody else's money.
Bob, I used to say that one of these days we'll reach a point at which the people who are working and paying taxes cannot carry all the other load that's put on the working people. And I'm not talking about just here in this country. We're carrying a load all over the world. Now,
Yeah, sure.
I don't say that we're going to reach that point because we have done past that point.
Oh yeah.
And this $17 trillion debt is proof that we have already borrowed 17 trillion, and I'd say hitting towards 18
They've already
trillion.
lowered our credit rating.
Well, what I'm saying is we have reached the point that the working class of people, the people who are producing and paying the bills, and I'm talking about paying the bills for government, for politicians, for our president to spend $1 million and some dollars to fly out here and make some kind of a speech that I heard and could not understand the significance of. He could have said the same thing by technique from over where he was having a vacation. He could have said the same thing. But here's the point I'm making. We've already reached the point and exceeded it to where that the working people cannot produce enough to foot the bill of everything. What have you brought up, Ronnie?
I'm just reading the news.
Okay. Now, locally here, we're fixing to get a considerable property tax increase. Right now in this county, there's so many, many property owners that are just barely paying their taxes, their property taxes. The ones that are on the very bottom that are paying their property taxes. When these property taxes go up, those people won't be able to pay their taxes.
No.
All right? Their property will be sold down here on the courthouse steps. All right? Now that moves that up here just so high. The next time there'll be so many more that can't pay their taxes. And this thing's like a snowball bound for you know where.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Right.
It may take it. We don't care. The government doesn't or whatever about what's going to happen right now, but because this is going to be stretched out to where we don't
Well, you look
notice
down
it.
there. Let's take the old Kmart building as an example. Okay, first of all, the people made a real bad mistake by not reducing their rent to accommodate what was that farm store or Tractor Supply?
Yeah, Tractor Supply.
Now that's
yeah.
the way I understand it. So Tractor Supply moved out. They were unable to get any more renters in that building.
Mm-hmm.
As a result, the county took the building in payment of taxes.
In lieu of taxes, okay.
Which the county didn't really care.
The county doesn't care one bit.
Because they turned around and sold it and wasted all that money. And this is what David Goins called me on at one of the meetings I was at. He said, look, we didn't waste that money. We spent it here. He built a road by his house. He did a lot of other things. He gave everybody money. He come up there with their hands open. I said, well, that money was intended for industrial development. I said, anything you spend it for other than industrial development, you wasted it. And that's my outlook on it. But they didn't care, you know. They got 600-some thousand out of that building, and they were able to give it away, you know, to their friends and
Cost Lynn
relatives.
Littner a job.
What?
Cost Lynn Littner a job.
Right, yeah. And
Because he didn't want to do that.
right.
But that's life.
I think Lynn found out it's a little bit harder when you fall in the hole to get out than it was to keep from falling in that hole to start with.
Well, he's trying to save our money is the reason he got pushed in.
Right, yeah.
He bucked the system.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I know better than that. I learned.
Yeah, but I thought Lynn.
I'm learning.
I thought Lynn also voted building codes out of the committee that he was on.
I didn't know that.
That if he had voted not to send it to the county commissioners, that it would have died in that committee.
Well, now, wait a minute.
No. The way that building codes thing came in, that thing came in from Washington, and
I
it was
understand
never
that,
voted.
But it had to come. It had to come through one of the.
They didn't
never
have
did
to
vote it.
They didn't have to vote it in. They had to vote it not to accept it.
Well, this was when it was something Lynn was a part of. I'd have to go back and check my notes.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I like Lynn. Don't get me wrong, but something he was a part of that he said he just had to vote it out. I don't remember what it was.
Well, I remember something about that, but I believe you're wrong on building codes. But I also know that he voted up to $250,000 on a dog pound and said he wasn't going no further and tied it up for a long time. They eventually got it up to $600,000. It turned out to be probably $1 million time it's done. They admitted 800.
Yeah.
Well, fellas, we're spending. I heard a discussion last night, and they said the only two ways is you have to either raise your tax base or raise your taxes. They left out cutting spending.
That's not a part of their thinking.
Well, that's right. Sooner or later, we'll come to a point that people can pay no more, but they'll do it so slowly, like on property taxes, and that's where we're going to get hit. They keep it jacking them up, and this is going to be a pretty good lick from what I'm hearing about. The residents are going to be paying somewhere in the vicinity of $2 million higher this year.
Well, do you realize that in 2010, 2011, the county assuming they balanced their budget, took in $67,871,100.
67 million?
Yeah, that's counting the school budget and everything else. And that in 2 years later, 2012, 2013, it was $77,257,600. So that's a $10 million increase in 2 years. Now, right here's what's giving them a problem. In 2011, 2012, it was $78,192,000. Means they dropped down about $900,000 from last year to this year, and they can't figure out how to make up the difference. If they go back to the spending they had 2 years ago, they'd have excess.
Right. Yeah. We've got this new commission, the majority of them being replaced, and a new mayor and whatever. Here in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, they'll take charge. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I think our mayor-elect is going to be on a talk show tomorrow night.
Who?
Mayor-elect Morton is going to be on Jerry Chadwell's talk show tomorrow night. And it'll be interesting to see what they're going to talk about in the real world and what there is to deal with here. I'm not saying yay or nay about the liquor thing, but the proponents who supported liquor said that the tax off the liquor would take us right out of any kind of debt in the Caryville and everywhere else. I don't see it happening. I don't hear nothing else said about it. I don't think the taxes are making that big a difference.
Well, let's see here. If I could read sideways, I'd tell you.
Yeah.
Any way to rotate this? Don't think so. You got to rotate your head.
Well, I can say this. In a lot of ways, the more money you have to spend, the poorer you are.
If you spend it.
If you don't spend it wisely.
Mm-hmm. I see stuff that has gone in the past where that we have wasted money. We have allowed our elected people and our appointed people.
This is mixed drinks, not liquor, according to this. Caryville got $149,000
From mixed drinks?
last year, yeah.
Okay.
No, 2010, 2011. In Jacksboro, Shouldn't have got any, did they? No, wait a minute.
That
can't
doesn't sound right.
I
but-
can't read sideways. We've got Jack. That can't be.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't a larger portion of that, or a goodly portion of it, supposed to be earmarked for education?
I think so. I don't know.
Anyhow, a lot of things that we're told don't ever come to pass, and it goes under the bridges, you might say. I see one thing here coming up in the future that could help our county quite a bit, and that's this TA truck stop, Truck Stops of America.
What?
TA.
The one up on 141?
Up on 141. I see that as having potential as far as expanding our tax base, not only in the building part of it, but if I'm talking about the fuel. Because see, when those trucks are fueled up right there, this county will get a substantial amount of the tax off
So
of
will
it.
Caryville.
Well, yeah, right, Carroll and the county too. So, to me, that will be substantial, I believe.
Right. Well, you know,
time will tell.
You know, I'm sure that's good, and we need to look forward to that and do what we can to.
But let's don't go borrow $2 or $3 or $10 million on that expectation.
What I'm saying,
Yeah, that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
this whole country is dependent on collecting money off of wealth that's already been produced.
Right.
They pre-spend it all
and not producing any new wealth.
Right.
Well, Vital Care produces a little new wealth. You want to tell them about it?
Well, I'm guaranteed they also not only produce a little wealth, they also bring a lot of tender loving care to the people that they serve. And I had an occasion to use Vital Care, about 3 years ago, I think it was. And I was in pretty dire straits, and I called 562-9370, and they were there before the next pain hit. And
Before the next teardrop fell.
They loaded me up, carried me to the hospital. I spent 5 days in there. I was pretty bad off, and I always have appreciated their professionalism. The fact that they didn't act like they were doing me a favor to come out there and pick me up. You know, that's the way most governmental operations happen. They act like they're doing you a favor if they do anything for you. You know, a lot of times and a lot of businesses around here. I was very taken back when I moved up here that people you did business with around here, most of them didn't act like they appreciate it. They acted like they had done you a favor by letting you spend your money there. And that's something I don't feel that way myself. If you spend some money to me, I'm going to thank you all the way to the bank. But back to Vital Care. Vital Care is an independently owned medical transportation facility. It's owned by John Bond, who has 35-40 years experience in the ambulance business. It does not cost the taxpayers of this county 1 cent when Vital Care is used, and they are in direct competition with the government, and any time private industry is in competition with the government always loses. It doesn't make a difference what it is. So call Vital Care 562-9370, or you can call 911 and tell them you want Vital Care to pick you up. They'll do a good job for you.
Yep. That's all I got to say about that. Did I mention the digger's in the middle of the road in Sawmill Island?
Yeah. He's down there, he was down there about 8 o'clock this morning trying to warm up a new blend of propane gas for this coming winter season. You know, it's been Obama summer. I guess it'll be Al Gore winter, and so I don't know what we're going to talk about.
I think we ought to change the name of the Redskins myself.
Why? You gonna change the name of the Redskins? Yeah. Well, I think so. That's horrible.
I do too. Yeah, it is. It's
Right.
awful. It's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fellas, I've been reading some on your nuclear thing. I read a thing the other day about
Did
that
you watch
tower.
that thing about the thorium reactor?
Thorium.
I sent you the link to.
I tried to and couldn't find it. I went back through it 2 or 3 different ways.
You talking about
But
the one down at the
You
what?
didn't type it
reactor.
in. You didn't type it in like I
I
wrote
typed
down.
it in exactly, word for word, and checked it 3 times. But anyhow, this solar collector they've got out west.
Yeah, zapping birds.
Boy, did you see that there?
I heard it.
They call them. They call watching streamers.
Yeah.
And the way these mirrors are set up, these mirrors are about the size of a garage door.
Why don't they put a fence around it?
Well, or something. But they got these things, these mirrors that heat this water in this tank. And I believe this tank, if I'm not mistaken, it's about 30 stories tall. Now, it may not be that tall. But anyhow, these birds fly through that beam and it ignites them. And
It ignites them.
it ignites them. And they go through and they're like a torpedo. They give a smoke trail
Right.
as they go through. And they call them streamers.
Right.
And they said they was averaging, on this one, they was averaging 1 every 2 minutes. And somehow, they're of the opinion,
That's a lot of birds.
that's a lot of birds, buddy. They told how many thousands had been turned into streamers. And they were seeking a permit to put another one, and I believe they said this thing's going to be 90 stories tall, which that's a tremendous. That's 9 that's 900 feet high. But they're kind of
They'll
concerned.
put a windmill on top of it.
They're concerned about the birds that'll get into this beam. They'll have a lot of streamers out there.
I think so.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting, though, the fact that they said that somehow this thing tends to draw insects, and they said the birds come to the insects.
Well,
So
of course they do. It's light.
yeah,
They're trying to fly out that hole.
Yeah.
That's just having a barbecue is all that is,
Yeah,
isn't
but
it?
I hadn't thought about that thing, but it's got to have a tremendous amount of focus, and the water has got to what temperature would it's got to go to boiling at least
Right.
in this container.
Yeah, I read an interesting article today where they revealed that fracking,
Mhm.
which is a method of releasing a lot of natural gas, you
Mhm.
know, that the United States has entered into a contract with China to open up their vast shale deposits there by fracking and get them off the coal binge, which is supposed to be producing so much.
They won't be allowed to build no power plants once they
Right.
get tied in with us.
Right, yeah, and so you know that's something that we don't realize that Hillary Clinton was instrumental in having fracking brought to a number of countries throughout Europe.
Mhm.
Mainly Romania had a large deposit of shale, and she finally got them to open up that country to fracking.
And when they're market,
Mhm.
coal oil both.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a gentleman, we pour a device for oil wells. It's a device it's got an inlay or cutout in it to where when they put their blowout pipe off away from the well, they have to hold this thing down because if they get a blowout, this line's about a 6-8 inch line and it's got a tremendous amount of slack
Pressure.
to it or whatever, yeah. And they set these blocks ever so many feet on it to hold it down. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. But one of the fellows who comes in and drives there, he's very well versed on this fracking thing. He's done it for years. And I was questioning him some to the extent as to how that they drill a well down and then turn out. You know, the oil industry can drill a well down so
Well,
far.
simple. You get your
That
black.
works for me.
You get you a Black and Decker, a right angle drill is what you do.
Okay. Now this is a different address as what I had.
Okay, try that, and it's a different version,
It's
same
a
thing.
it's a different address. Okay. But he said to make that turn, said it took a quarter of a mile to make that turn. You know, to get that bit. But I don't understand how in the world you get a drill bit, you know, to flex a string without breaking it. He said they used, if I'm not mistaken, he said aluminum steel or aluminum drill. And I don't see how in the world anything stands to do that.
Well, I never have figured out how they haul them there mile-long rails down the railroad going around curves either.
But they do. They flex. That's right. The that's one heck of an improvement. You remember years ago when the train went by, you had that clangety clangety clang every joint.
Yep.
You had a click in it.
Yeah.
And when they first put in that ribbon rail,
You know, they had to go put a jumper wire on every one of them joints.
oh yeah, they had to have that thing tied together because that's part of their communications and their safety system. And I don't know. Is there any connections other than where they make a repair or something and then they fuse it back together?
I don't know.
It's amazing.
Well, I worked for the railroad back so long ago, so help me, they had an oiler.
Yeah.
That went around to oil them bearings
Yeah.
on them boxcars.
Yeah.
And I worked for the railroad. I was up at Coalfield, Virginia, I believe it was. And that's the coldest stretch of railroad I ever been on in my life.
Hmm. Well, you know how they ended up having a hot box a lot of times, don't
Oh,
you?
yeah.
That stuff,
I hear some coming up down this road sometimes
Oh.
they're going to have a hot box on it, too.
Yeah. Well, I've seen them come through here on fire, actually burning.
Right, yeah. I lay there listening to them. You know, I'm from a railroad family. I listen to those trains go by at night, you know. I can tell you how many of them boxcars had wheel bearings that were not quite right.
Yeah. Well, the miners and whatever, and I've seen it done, you know, that lid was spring loaded.
That what?
The lid, where they could see they had this packing stuff, it's
Right,
kind of
yeah.
like a coax, and
Yeah.
they put grease down in there like you cause they oiler.
Why?
Well, if that car's sitting at the tipple or somewhere and you need the fire,
Right.
you just raise that thing up, take that stuff out and set it on fire.
Right.
Makes a nice campfire.
Yeah.
See?
Kind of like carbon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it'd make a nice fire.
Yeah, we know who's been stealing the grease.
Yeah, folks.
but-
We'll sing you some railroad songs next time. Folks, we got about a minute. We appreciate all of you tuning in to the Wild Bob and Ronnie Show. We appreciate having R.L. Henson with us today. And
Delilah
all of
Boss.
his socialistic views.
Yeah, I'm socialistic. Now, being a socialist takes some study. If you've been raised a conservative out here that has lived out of the dumpster and whatever, to become a socialist, I don't know, can you get a degree in it?
Yeah, they got college professors.
They have, okay.
You can get a PhD.
Yeah.
You know what that stands for, don't you?
Yeah, poor and helpless.
That's piled hind deep.
Yeah.
That's it.
Uh,